Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of The Flash by Joshua Williamson Omnibus Volume 1 from DC Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So today we are going to be taking an advanced look at The Flash by Joshua Williamson Omnibus Volume 1. This book comes out everywhere, direct market and book market, on April 9th or 10th, depending on where you get your books. It does have one cover. I didn't see a direct market cover, but they've been doing that lately. But it does have one cover, and that is the one that's supplied by the Giandomenico here. So you have The Flash by Joshua Williamson, Omnibus Volume 1, Joshua Williamson, Carmine Di Giandomenico, and Howard Porter down there. And then The Flash by Joshua Williamson, Omnibus Volume 1. Here's that image of The Flash running. And then the back of the book, The Flash Reborn. So this is the Rebirth era. And it retails for $125. Now, before I talk about what's collected in here, we look at the artwork, we look at even underneath the dust jacket, let's talk about where it fits into the reading order of Flash in omnibus format. So it comes right after The Flash New 52 Omnibus Volume 1. We still need a Volume 2 to finish out that series. We are getting a Mark Waid Volume 2, and hopefully we'll wrap up that series with a Volume 3. I think those should be 3 or 4, depending on how they decide to map those. This will also require a couple more Omnis to wrap up, because Joshua Williamson ended up writing 100 issues of The Flash, which is just crazy. Now, this stuff has been collected before, of course, in single issue format, in trade paperback format, and in the Deluxe Edition format, which I love the Rebirth Deluxe Editions. Now, if you're thinking, oh, I can just go ahead and get the Omnibus, get rid of the OHCs, well, it's mapped a little bit different, because this goes all the way to issue 35, whereas Volume 3 of the Rebirth Deluxe Edition goes all the way to issue 38. So you got 3 issues that will probably, no, okay, we know 100% will be in a Volume 2 when and if that comes out. Also, this includes things like the Button Complete. It has the Batman issues. So I'll talk a little bit about what's collected in here in a few. And it's got the whole Justice League crossover during the whole Dark Knights event. So you have the front here, and the spine of the book right there, and then the back of the book. Meaning that you get this amazing image underneath the dust jacket by Carmine Di Giandomenico. It's the art on board. Okay, we are going to crack this book open. I'm going to talk a little bit about what kind of reading you need to do before reading this particular book, which is very little to none, honestly. But I understand the mentality of completists and having to go into this with a little bit of knowledge. Look at the artwork and check out the extras in the back and talk about what's, of course, is collected in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and crack this book open here. You have your red end sheets, Flash by Joshua Williamson Omnibus Volume 1. Your title, your credits over here, Joshua Williamson being the main writer of the book, Tom King, Michael Morecci, and Robert Venditti doing a couple of the issues here. And the main, I will say about, I don't want to, never mind. Let's start talking about 70% or something like that. Somebody would be like, actually, it's more like 65%. So I'm just going to say a majority of the book is drawn by Carmine Di Giandomenico. Howard Porter, the legend, comes back and draws some stuff in here. Neil Gooch, I believe, might be how you pronounce his name. David Gianfelici and Pop Mon are just some of the pencilers, but you also have Jorge Corona, Ryan Sook, Liam Sharp, Ethan Van Sciver, Tyler Kirkham, Mikhail Janin, and Andy Owens as other artists on the book. You have the colorist being Chris Sotomayor, and Dave McKeag, and Ivan Plasencienza. And then the lettering by Steve Wands and Tom Napolitano and Ron Bennett, just to name a few. You do have a table of contents over here letting you know what the issue number title was. You have your introduction by Joshua Williamson, and it's a really awesome introduction, honestly. Doomed to Repeat It is from Flash Rebirth #1, and that came out in August of 2016, and they give you the page numbers here. And your variant cover gallery starts on this page. So the forward is by Joshua Williamson, talking about how he first started reading The Flash. And one of my favorite things about his introduction is he was talking about these grab bags that he would get from Costco. And anybody remembers, like, from the 90s when DC and Marvel started doing that. I want to say, like, in the early 90s, 1990, 1991, they started putting these grab bags of just random issues in there. And then Image started following suit, like including like really hard to find early Image issues, hard to find at the time, that is. But he does talk about his love of Flash and how when he became a comic book writer, that was his goal, was to write the Flash. So collected in here is the Flash Rebirth #1, Flash 1 through 35, Batman 21 and 22. So that's right, the button is collected in here complete without missing a beat. You don't have to go and get your Batman hardcover. Also collected in here is Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps #32, Justice League 32 through 33, and that means that it is the Bats Out of Hell storyline during the era of the Dark Knight's Metal crossover, and also a story from DC Holiday Special 2017, issue #1. So we do kick it off with the Rebirth of Flash. Not to be confused with Flash Rebirth, which was written by Jeff Johns, drawn by Ethan Van Sciver, but it is the Rebirth era of the DC Universe, which launched with this. And I get so many people asking me the questions, like, okay, Green Lantern Rebirth and Flash Rebirth are the same thing? No, they're not entirely. That's why I do reading orders. Now, do you need to have read this? Not really, because I think Joshua Williamson does an amazing job grabbing the important things from the DC Rebirth issue to put into his story. So all you have to know is that the Flash comic was rebooted. Barry Allen was back after the Flash Rebirth, again, not to be confused with this, by Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver. And that brought Barry Allen back. He had been dead since Crisis on Infinite Earths. So when that happened, that led into a storyline called Flashpoint, where DC decided to revamp the entire DC universe, with a couple of exceptions here and there. But Flash was definitely one of them, keeping some of the stories from his past. But one of the biggest things that happened in Flashpoint that restarted the DC Universe with the New 52 era was it got rid of the character of Wally West, introducing us to a new Wally West, a Wallace West that was part of the Teen Titans. So in this, one of the most iconic thing that happens to a lot of us that grew up with Wally West being our Flash is Flash is brought back in this. Our Flash, Wally West. And like I mentioned, Williamson does an amazing job of just picking and choosing what's important from there to add to the Flash Rebirth issue, the one-shot. So we start off with Barry Allen, getting to know a little bit about him. He's a police scientist, and they're looking at a dead body, and he's having these headaches. He's having these, I don't want to call them flashbacks or flash forwards, because that's just ridiculous. But he keeps seeing images of things to come. Like, who is this young man? And it leads into this character, like I mentioned, of Wally West coming back. Now, this is also a quick recap as to what's happened previously, both in the New 52 era and before Flashpoint. Like how he was able to clear his dad's name of murdering his mother, and who was really at fault, and how he has now a connection with his father. And then we get to the point where Wally comes back, and he doesn't remember Wally at first. And again, these scenes were seen in the DC Rebirth issue, but it's a little more detailed over here. You get to know more of the internal thoughts of what Barry's thinking as soon as he sees Wally. I love that it's the same panels at time and done from a different angle. It's a nice touch. But no, he doesn't remember the speedster. Who is he? What's going on? And then he starts remembering Wally. And one of my favorite moments is, how could I ever forget you? Because that's the way we felt as fans. How could DC, how could we as fans ever have forgotten Wally West? So, like I said, this sets up the new era of Flash. I love this right here. It's such an amazing image, and I'm so glad they used it for the art on board. It is Wally West in his Kid Flash outfit, of course, because, I mean, whenever you have Barry Allen, he's still living in the shadows of Barry, and that was always one of Wally's issues. And then we also get a recap as to what Batman had seen in that Rebirth one-shot. He saw a speedster, and the speedster left behind something here. A smiley face. Now, that could be tying into the Joker, but for people that have read comics for a while, even just familiar with comics, they probably immediately think, wait a minute, what does that mean? A little bit of that is talked upon in the Button crossover. Now, I gave you the setup as to this new era. You know, you've got Barry Allen. He's back being a scientist, forensic scientist, working with the police. He's the Flash. Wally West is back. He's going to be his own Flash. And during this time, Barry Allen is not married. He's single. Although Iris West does play a part in this, and I'll talk a little bit about that more. So moving forward, I am going to talk about the issues collected in here. Not in full detail, not as far as like big spoilers or anything. But in case you want to jump into this completely blind, I am going to be talking about some minor spoilers. Just the pitch of what this series is, what this first omnibus gives us. Alright, so with issue number 1, we have Barry Allen back as the Flash, living his dual identity, the police forensic scientist, giving us a quick recap as to what exactly made him into the Flash with the freak accident, with the lightning, and all the type of experimental bottles that they had back there. You know, comic book science. I love it. You see his connection with Iris West. You meet this young man named also Wally West. That was introduced in the pages of the New 52, but he still makes it here. So there's 2 Wally West and there's 2 Flash running around. Flashes, I guess, if you will, running around. One is with the Teen Titans, and that is, of course, Wally West. And Barry Allen is the main titular character here of the Flash. So I love the fact that both of them are spread out doing their own thing. Now, for a Flash story, you do need some bad guys. So you have John Carver here and the group of the Black Hole causing havoc. Now, one of the characters you meet through here is Detective August Hart. He is Barry Allen's friend that happens to, of course, work in the police force. And when the character of Black Hole and Joseph Carver unleash havoc upon the city of Central City, where they all live again, lightning strikes August Hart, and he gets these Speed Force abilities, kind of in the same way that Barry Allen got his powers, except, you know, there weren't any kind of scientific bottles back here. It was just straight up lightning. Now, why Barry Allen and Wally West have split up is because Wally is going to become the Flash again, but they're both trying to figure out who it was that took years away from their life. They're both aware that someone has taken away time from them. And not just them, but the entire DC universe. So there's that whole mystery that makes this book really important. I love that about the whole Rebirth era. How important this book is with Batman, with Superman. What exactly is manipulating everybody, and who was in control of taking years away. Who would have made Wally disappear, and why? It all becomes really a big part of a crossover that happens later on. Now, with his friend August that becomes a speedster, he has to train him, right? He can't just let him be because he needs help. So August decides to put on a costume and become his new sidekick with no ridiculous code name. And what ends up happening is that lightning strikes again, but this time it strikes a bunch of the citizens of Central City, giving them these speedster powers. So now Flash has a group of people that he has to train. And it's really interesting how they come about this, because, you know, these are just everyday people that accidentally got struck by lightning. They weren't asking for these powers to happen. So what ends up happening is Star Labs ends up giving them suits so they can run around. We get to meet new characters here. This is the young lady, Dr. Mina Dewan, who takes an interest in Barry Allen. So it's not just Iris West that's after Barry's heart. It's also this young doctor right here. And she also gets speedster powers. However, her power is a little bit different because she can sense when there's other speedsters around. Now, there is a new villain that you saw a little bit through here. That guy right there. And he appeared in a vision right there. And that is Godspeed. And what Godspeed wants to do is absorb everyone's speed force because he feels like they're just wasted opportunity. They're not doing anything important with it. So he is destroying people left and right. And that's the big story arc that happens in the first part of the book. We have the Shade coming in here. This actually feels like the Shade from James Robinson's Starman. I thought it was a really nice touch. And the Shade also has a bigger understanding as how things were before, because he makes a couple of comments here that makes you think, wait a minute, does he remember the DC Universe the way it was before things went crazy with New 52? And it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. I love the fact that Wally is now being trained by the Flash. Now, at this moment, Wally doesn't know that Barry Allen is the Flash. All he knows is his Aunt Iris has a crush on Barry Allen. Nor does Iris know that Barry Allen is the Flash. But there's a lot of training that is happening through here for those few issues. And if you miss the Rogues, don't worry. They show up through here in a storyline called The Rogues Reloaded. And it's an excellent storyline because of the way that Joshua Williamson utilizes the characters. By the time they appeared, yes, I was like, okay, Godspeed's pretty cool, Wally's cool, it's great to see the Shade, but I'm missing the Rogues. I love the Rogues. Ever since Mark Waid and Jeff Johns run, I feel like the Rogues just are a big, crucial part of the Flash. So don't worry, they do show up, and there's a couple twists and turns as to what ends up happening with those characters. Now, there is the crossover with Batman, and that is the Button. And the Button is a follow-up to the things that happened in Jeff Johns' Flash Rebirth and Flashpoint that were set up during that particular time. So the crossover involves this Button and how it has a reaction to Psycho Pirate's mask. And that reaction causes the Reverse Flash to come here. And what he's doing here is something crazy and unique, but if you haven't read The Button, I am going to spoil just a little bit as to what happens because I have to talk about it for the next story arc. And there is a beatdown here by Eobard Thawne, just knocking the crap out of Batman, but it leaves both of them completely knocked out and Eobard just a skeleton. So I'm going to let you find out exactly what happens in The Button. It's not collected, like I said, fully in the OHCs, but it is collected in an oversized hardcover known as The Button. Now, Flash refuses to believe that Professor Zoom is gone, like the Reverse Flash is a skeleton. He knows something's going on. There's a wonderful team up with Green Lantern here. I love when they get together, Hal Jordan and Barry Allen. And yes, Professor Zoom is back. So he has to follow the Reverse Flash into the 25th century with, of course, the treadmill, tapping into the Speed Force. Gives you a quick recap as to who the character of the Reverse Flash was. And you can find out exactly what he does. When he comes back from the 25th century, the Flash looks a little bit different. He's tapped into another part of the Speed Force, and that is the negative part of the Speed Force. So he becomes almost like the negative Flash, if you will. And a couple of new characters that appear through here that test him, and Wally West is trying to help him. And here is the crossover with the Justice League. And it is, like I mentioned earlier, it's all part of that Bats Out of Hell storyline. And this is set during the Dark Knight's metal crossover event. That's why it almost feels a little bit out of place. So you're going to have a couple of different artists. And then the last story arc has a couple of twists and turns and surprises. So I'm just going to let you find out exactly what happens there. And then we have the DC Holiday Special, which is a really cute story about the Flash just helping out people. Barry Allen helping out people. And we do have a little bit of a cameo appearance by somebody else that happens during the button that will play a bigger part in the Flash by Joshua Williamson Omnibus Volume 2. So that's why I didn't talk about a particular character, if you're wondering. Here's the variant covers. And there's quite a number of variant covers here. I think by now most people know, but just in case you don't, just because it's on a cover doesn't mean that it happened in the internal pages. I do like to stress that. Now, I do have to skip some of the character designs because they spoil things. So we'll just move to a couple of safe ones, like this is Joseph Carver. And the designs for the rogues. And skipping a couple of more designs because they reveal who the characters are. Oh, I didn't show this issue, but there is something really cool that they do in the back here. This is the Easter egg for the Flash 21 with all the little hidden things that they have in here from different DC characters. Like you have the Dial H for Hero thing. Oh, actually, they tell you right here exactly what they are. But over here, they give you the actual image of what you're going to be looking for in that page right there. And then your end sheets. So let's talk about the binding and build of the book. The book has 1,008 pages. It is sewn binding. And it is printed in this new paper stock that DC has been using in their Omnis. It's a little thinner. It's not quite glossy, but it's also not matte paper. It feels like a satin type of paper with a little more bleed through than they used to have. They used to print their books in this really thick glossy paper. And it does have some gutter loss. Not a lot, but some gutter loss. And that's a lot of it has to do with, I'm sure you noticed when I held it up, but just in case, the excess glue that they have here. And I've opened this omnibus up and stretched the spine about 5 times. May have to do it just a couple more times, but I did want to make people aware that it's not quite one of the, the old rat traps that DC used to put out. But it does have a lot of glue down there. So you do have some minimal gutter loss happening there. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $200 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you plan on picking it up, if you have the other Flash Omnis, if you hope they finish out Mark Waid's run in omnibus format, or get a volume 2 of the New 52 era, or if you want them to finish out Joshua Williamson's run from the Rebirth era in omnibus format first. Did I say formast? Uncanny Omar talk pretty one day. Omnibus format. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. That's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.